अस्सलामुअलैकुम। मैं न्यूयॉर्क से मोहसिन ज़हीर हूँ। 5 नवंबर को अमेरिका में सिर्फ सदारती इलेक्शन नहीं होने जा रहे, बल्कि कांग्रेशनल और अमेरिका की जो रियासती असम्बलियाँ और सेनेट है, उनके भी इलेक्शन होने जा रहे हैं। न्यूयॉर्क के इलाके नासा काउंटी में बड़ी तादाद में पाकिस्तानी मुस्लिम और साउथ एशियन बसते हैं, और यहाँ पर भी स्टेट सेनेट के इलेक्शन होने जा रहे हैं। मेरे पास साथ इस वक्त किम काइजरमैन हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं, जो कि स्टेट सेनेट के लिए इलेक्शन लड़ रही हैं, और इनके स्टेट सेनेटोरियल डिस्ट्रिक्ट में बड़ी तादाद में पाकिस्तानी मुस्लिम और साउथ एशियन अमेरिकन रहते हैं। सो हम किम के बारे में जानने की कोशिश करेंगे, और ये भी जानने की कोशिश करेंगे कि अगर किम इलेक्ट हो जाती हैं तो इसका क्या मानी होंगे हमारी कम्युनिटी के लिए। किम, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर बीइंग विद अस।
Well, thank you for having me. Really
Thank you.
appreciate
So
it.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've lived in the district for 23 years in Port Washington. That's where I raised my 2 children who are young adults now. I've been married for 29 years. My career has been in education. I started my career as a high school social studies teacher in my 20s and very early 30s. And then when my kids were born, I took a little time off. I got very involved in my community, including in doing a lot of advocacy for education, schools, and children. And eventually I went back to work as an education consultant, developing curricula and teacher resources to help teachers create inclusive classrooms and combat bullying and bigotry in schools, particularly religious-based bullying and bigotry. So fighting hate and discrimination have been part of my career from the very beginning. I've always worked to get young people involved in the political process, to engage them in active citizenship, and to teach people how to have civil, respectful conversations with one another, including across differences. That's a real priority for me. And so that's affected the way that I've run my campaign, and it's affected my politics. I got involved politically about 8 years ago after many years of advocacy for education and our environment. I realized that I was concerned about the direction our country was moving in, particularly with the election of Donald Trump. I was disturbed by his lies and his attacks on immigrants, women, people of color, the free press, U.S. leadership in the world, and democracy itself. I felt that I needed to be part of the fight for democracy and decency.
Kim, can you please tell us about your district, senatorial district?
Sure.
Which areas comes into your district?
Sure. So my district goes from the Nassau County line in Great Neck to the Suffolk County line in Oyster Bay, on the North Shore of Nassau County. So it includes it's almost 330,000 people, and it includes the areas like Great Neck, Port Washington, Manhasset, Glen Cove, Glen Head, Oyster Bay, Bayville, Syosset, Woodbury, and others.
And in your district, large number of Pakistani Muslims are living, and community is growing. People are moving to Nassau County every other day.
Yes.
So if elected, what would your victory means to our community?
Well, as I said, my career in education has been about involving people in the political process, bringing people together into civil dialogue, and combating hatred and bigotry, particularly religious-based hatred and bigotry. So that's a value that I would bring with me to Albany. I would pursue education reforms that make sure that we are creating curricula and creating standards in our schools to help teachers bring all kids into the process of education and make sure that kids are learning to respect one another, including those who are different from themselves. I would certainly, in my own office, make sure that my staff represents the diversity of the
That's
7th
great.
Senate District. And I would make sure that I'm keeping open lines of communication with all the groups in my district so that I really understand their concerns, the problems that they face, and their different perspectives on the issues. I'm never going to only listen to some groups or some perspectives.
One major issue the uh, people are facing in Nassau County or even in your district is the affordability.
Yes.
So, what role as a senator you can play to make sure people, especially elderly people, they can afford to live in county?
So
Yes.
I think there are a number of things that I can do. When I go to Albany, unlike the incumbent, I will be in the majority. So I'll be a voice in the room who will have the power to bring home resources to our district. So part of the way that you keep local taxes down is by bringing home resources from Albany. So fully funding our public schools through foundation aid is critical to keeping our local property taxes in check. Bringing home aid for municipalities is critical as well. I also support our Congressman Tom Suozzi and his work in bringing back restoring the state and local tax deduction. That's critical for affordability as well.
And a lot of residents of Nassau County moved from New York City, five boroughs. In New York City, Muslim observe Eid holidays.
Yes.
What about in the state, if you will be in Albany? Are you going to support?
In my work, I have supported and promoted, ensuring that we're recognizing the holidays of people who live in communities. So I do support having our school districts recognize the Eid holiday and Diwali as well. I think it's a really important way that we show respect for different traditions and cultures. We promote learning about them in our schools, and doing that is a way, like I was talking about before, where we encourage kids to develop attitudes of respectful curiosity about differences and learn about one another.
What's going on around the world is very disturbing for all of us.
Yes.
And our community is also have a lot of concern. So, what do you think? What role we all could or should play to make this world more peaceful world?
Right. So, as a state senator, I'm not going to be able to solve the crisis in the Middle East as much as I pray that I could. But what I can do is take a stand against the surge in Islamophobia and other forms of hate that we've seen in our communities. And that's just natural for me because of the work that I've done in my career. I think that hateful attacks in our community are all too common, but they're also underreported. And we need to make sure that we're educating all members of the community about what some of the more marginalized members of our community are facing in schools and workplaces and in their neighborhoods. We need to speak out. And this should be not a partisan issue. It should be a bipartisan and nonpartisan issue. We all need to speak out against all forms of hate and stand in solidarity against that.
Kim, lastly, please tell our viewers and your voters about early votings, election day, and what would be your final message to our community?
Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'm proud to be here and to have the opportunity to speak to different members of my community. Today is the first day of early voting. It's October 26th. Early voting goes for the next 9 days, and you can vote at any early voting location in Nassau County. It doesn't have to be the one nearest to you. You can go where is convenient for you, whatever day it is. Then on the Monday before Election Day, voting sites are closed. And on November 5th, Election Day, you vote at your usual polling location. The important thing is to make sure that you get out there and vote. Without voting, you don't have a voice in our democracy, and it's critical that we all exercise that right. I will also tell you that the ballot is very long this year. There are 21 people on the ballot that I'm going to be on, and I am toward the end. So make sure that you don't just vote for president, as important as that is. Keep going to the very end of the ballot and vote for Congress, state Senate, and Assembly as well. So thank you. To learn more about me and my campaign, please check out my website at www.kimkeiserman.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate it.